I opened my eyes, and lo and behold, there was a woman in the room staring at me only a few feet away at the end of the bed. The only sensation I remember it being is that this is concrete, this is real. And of course, this freaked me right out.
Chris Doyle is a successful magician. It was a childhood dream, but it would take a haunted house to help him achieve that goal.
I've always had an interest in magic. I've been watching magic on television and live for my entire life. One of my uncles was a part-time magician growing up, and I was exposed to magic from an early age. It eventually led to me choosing it as a career option. One experience that I have that sparked my interest in the paranormal is a house that I lived in the early 80s, early to mid 80s. My family and I moved into a house in North York, and the first impression I got off of the house was I didn't like it. I remember when I used to come home sometimes, I used to see the house, and I used to feel dread. I didn't want to walk into my own home, because it looks like the house is watching you, you know? The two windows are like eyes. You create this in your mind. You're looking at it. You got to walk into this doorway, which is its mouth, and it's going to consume you in some way. You're a child. You don't have the freedom to say, hey, look, I'm moving out. You got to stick it out. You got to stay. You got to figure out the best way around it. One such incident that I experienced firsthand was hearing people walking around. So whoever this was who was haunting the house was able to move about the house as if it's still there. You know, being home alone, playing video games, feeling as if the house is watching me, it's freaky, it's scary. There's something going on that I can't explain. So I was quite vulnerable in the sense because I was alone. It was my entire stay in this house that I can recall being a haunted experience. You know, being home alone, playing video games, feeling as if the house is watching me, it's freaky, it's scary. There's something going on that I can't explain. So I was quite vulnerable in the sense because I was alone. Being alone, I had to come up with ways to either ignore what was happening or just accept it, as this is just a part of the environment that I'm in. I gotta be honest, I used to sometimes freak myself out. I would think about it, think about it, think about it to the point where I would be frozen with fear and have to run upstairs and not want to be in the basement. I used to get up in the morning early, and we obviously, like any kid, you get up on a Saturday morning to watch TV, and I get up really early, about 6 in the morning. It's about 9 or 10 at the time. And I'd come upstairs into the kitchen area, and I'd go and I'd get myself some cereal. I remember the kitchen cabinet doors would be opened up. I don't really recall saying anything to anybody about it, but I remember it being something that I thought about over time in the day. One strange event that I recall was I was in the backyard and I was playing around. It was the middle of the afternoon. And for some reason, I had a compulsion to go and dig. This was 8-10 feet away from where I was. The feeling was kind of as if I was told to go dig there, but no one actually said anything. No one actually forced me to go. There was no voice coming from the house in the backyard or anything like that. But I was just, for some reason, I just turned around and kind of knew to go out into the backyard and dig a hole. And found a vintage, what would have been probably 1920s or 1930s toy soldier. And I remember it was like a rifleman, and it was crudely painted and sort of, it was lead because it wasn't rusted, and wearing like a tin hat. And at that moment, I remember thinking the house gave this to me, and I didn't want it. Not only did I want to not only get rid of it, because I could have easily just threw it back in the ground and covered it up, it would have still been there. I wanted to destroy it and get rid of it. I went down into the basement and I crushed it in a vise. I remember bringing it upstairs and putting it in the garbage at the side of the road. I didn't even put it in the kitchen garbage. I brought it outside because it was garbage day. But it was a strange event. Like, I don't recall anything like it ever again in my life, or anything that I've experienced that can compare to that sort of feeling that go dig this hole for no apparent reason, and there's something there. And I remember it as if it was yesterday. One of the main events of the house that I can recall was at nighttime. I opened my eyes, and lo and behold, there was a woman in the room staring at me only a few feet away at the end of the bed. And I sat up and looked at her thinking it was a relative or my grandmother, but I realized it wasn't somebody I knew. Realized it was something that was unusual. She was all in gray. I could see that she looked like she might have been a housewife. Her hair was pulled back into either a bun or into a ponytail. She looked like she was not too old. She looked like she was in her early to mid 40s. And she just basically stood there and looked at me. And of course, this freaked me right out. I turned over and turned on the television that was next to the bed and literally watched her disappear as the TV came on and brought light into the room. It was just too real and uncanny to have just been something that I dreamt and assumed had been a reality in the middle of the night. 'Cause I'd been awake for a little while afterwards, lying there freaked right out. But I remember this time knowing, like, this is something that's in the house, and being totally blown away by it. The only thing I could pick up off of her was possibly a sense of, a little bit of melancholy would be the only thing I could describe it as. But there was no interaction, there was no communication, all other than her just looking at me. I feel the house is a very strange puzzle. I kind of look back at it and wonder what happened there, who she was, and where she fits into the bigger scheme of things with this house. What I've always thought would be an interesting backstory to what happened was the woman died at a young age in the house, and something drove her to her death, whether it be illness or an event that happened in the house, and she's still there. Maybe she's a mother who lost a child, and she's trying to comfort me in this spooky environment and giving me things. She's watching me over in the middle of the night. Or maybe her husband was a soldier that never came home from war. You know, there's the soldier reference. But there's no proof. I have no backstory for this person, so I don't know.
Chris says his ghostly encounters drove him to explore how the mind works when it's faced with the unexplainable. Our expert Patty Allen tells us that this kind of curiosity is essential for a performing mind reader or magician. Without it, Chris couldn't be the successful illusionist he is today. Kyle's ghost seemed to have turned the tables on him, so what began as a fun way to make some cash has turned into a serious profession. And both men acknowledge they owe a debt of gratitude to the supernatural for helping them flourish in their careers.
I feel that the experiences I had as a young person can definitely contribute to know how to control other people's experiences when it comes to things like the unknown. I just obviously have to tone it down a little bit because it's just for fun. People are paying to get scared, and so I scare them.